Okay, so listen up and make sure to pay attention throughout all of this because this is going to be a really valuable video. There's a lot of insight that I'm going to be giving to you, and it's about a certain topic where there's not too much information out there. I mean, there is, like, you can find the stuff. That's how I came to the conclusions I did, and that's how I managed to learn myself. But it's something where if you do what I did, you're gonna have to spend ages and ages just browsing the web, watching every like YouTube video you can find about it, and each of it will give you tiny jigsaw pieces of the puzzle, and then you have to put it together on your own. And realistically, you might come to a different conclusion. That's okay, but I've done an extensive amount of research, and I think the conclusion I've come to is very accurate. And at least the way I've been responding to it, it's definitely something that works. So we're basically going to be talking about estrogenics, and this is one of those topics where it's very min-max. A lot of people give it too much credit. There's a level of estrogenics you can have where okay, that might actually like make these big changes in my health. But for the most part, your liver's going to be filtering out any estrogen, any estrogens you consume. It might keep a little bit in, but not enough to make a drastic difference. And of course, the idea isn't actually removing estrogen, it's just making sure that that balance is healthy. It's just making sure that that balance is, it's accurate, because a lot of the problems people find is they have too many estrogens, or well, they have too many estrogens, or their liver isn't, it's not strong enough yet to fight off the extra estrogenics you're entering. And I guess for peace of mind, a lot of people just try and minimize the amount you're consuming, because your body naturally, as your testosterone will go up, it will make a proportionate amount of estrogen, which is healthy. And we don't really have to mess with that too much, because for the most part, that's going to be a good amount. There are ways we can actually reduce it though, naturally, because as we do start getting to some of those higher levels of testosterone, there will be a little bit too much estrogen for our likings. And I guess I'll start with that sort of topic, because this is a great one you can implement. It's a very, very easy thing, and it's actually talking about a misconception people have. So when it comes to phytoestrogens, we'll be talking about stuff like soy. Well, in this sort of certain scenario, we're specifically talking about soy. A lot of people are like, oh, soy is so bad, we've got these soy boys. Honestly, a lot of the misinformation comes from the fact that the word soy boy exists. I mean, a soy boy, it's like the guy with man boobs. That's basically him. And the issue we have here is because this nickname is so, because this word is so poisoned, there's just so much stigma against soy. People don't realize how powerful soy is. From a protein standpoint, it's okay. It's not complete. It's missing some stuff. It's not going to be awful to have as a protein. Throwing it in your soup, throwing it in your meals could help with a little bit of a boost. And realistically, even when you're getting incomplete proteins, you're having enough of like the other amino acids within other things where it balances out. And it's not like, oh, that 20 grams of soy, the protein from it just didn't count because it wasn't complete. Like, come on. You're gonna get like different amino acids from everything. It's gonna mix together, and you're gonna end up being quite complete overall. But yeah, people think this is bad, and why? Because phytoestrogen. So people originally thought that this was a certain thing where it basically caused more estrogen in your body. It gave a similar response to having more estrogen, and it was fair for them to assume that, because there are certain types of phytoestrogens, I believe, that will do that. But the problem is with soy specifically, it would actually work in a beneficial way, where it would bind to your estrogen receptors in such a way where it's blocking actual estrogen from binding, which means your body is just producing less of it, essentially. Which is actually, a good way to lower estrogen. If you have too much estrogen, then incorporating soy is it's like a shield. It's like a potion where it's reinforcing the gates. It's stopping things from coming through. And so it can be quite beneficial in that regard. So I do think it's something you don't really want to be avoiding, and be like, oh, soy is the plague, man. Soy is the plague. But what I'm going to speak about next is actually the real plague which you can have. And some creators have spoken about this, about how milk is estrogenic, and of course it is. It's literally it's mother's milk. It has hormones in it, as you would assume. You know, that sort of thing would have. I don't know why this grossly, because it kind of makes me uncomfortable, but when the cow's lactating, of course there's going to be some of her female hormones in it. I mean, quite literally, you have too much estrogen, you grow like man boobs. So where do you think the estrogen's going towards in your body? I mean, that's a little bit bro sciencey, but I think you get it for the most part. And the issue here is a lot of milk. Let's say your liver's not good at filtering that estrogen out. You will actually be getting some of the estrogen from it. And of course, there's varying levels of estrogen you can have based on the quality of the milk, what's happened to it. Of course, you also have plastic, which is estrogenic, and if there's more plastic from the bottles or just from the way they're manufacturing it, again, there's going to be an additional estrogenic component to it. But for the most part, that is going to be filtered out. But some people they don't respond well to milk. So removing milk can be a decent way of just removing that estrogen, that component. And it's something I personally did, but to be fair, I kind of have a slight lactose intolerance. So it's good for me to remove that anyway. And of course, there are other people, maybe they suffer from acne or, just other issues, which is probably from milk. So milk can actually be a really good thing to remove. Of course, if you can handle it, milk is such a superfood. Like, I know that there's not too much mineral. People are like, oh, the calcium's not great. You're still getting calcium from it. Like, do you know how much calcium you're getting? Do you know what you're getting it from? Realistically, I don't think you do. And milk is a way to get more calcium. Like, yeah, you can get things from anything, but it doesn't mean that you should just exclude something because it's a worse way of getting it. Like I mentioned soy earlier, just because it won't be giving the complete protein doesn't mean, gotta avoid that, it's not gonna be good for my protein, because it's a tool in a toolbox. And so with milk, we have something where it's very easy to drink. It's very nice, you can drink your calories for it. It does have a bit of protein in it, it's got some nutrients, and you can make so many beverages with it. Especially if you're trying to bulk, if you're trying to add those calories, having a smoothie or something and just throwing milk in instead can be good. But of course, like I mentioned, we are able to use soy instead, and we could potentially be getting a different sort of benefit from that soy, just from its estrogen blocking, perspective. And so that's kind of all I wanted to say about milk. But in general, when you're purchasing things, of course, reducing the amount of microplastic that's going to be in something, or making sure that you have the best quality meat available, that's all going to be ways to kind of reduce the natural estrogenic levels of, well maybe not natural, because it's unnatural because of the processes involved, but that can be like a great way of tackling that. And God, what am I saying? And so yeah, everyone knows that sort of thing's gonna happen. Microplastics are gonna have an effect. There's clear, research in the data. There's so clear data in the research. I don't know which one's the right way to phrase that, but it's clear the effects that it can have. And the thing people don't know really is they're like, oh, I gotta start taking out the microplastics now, man. I don't have much money, but health is the number one thing that matters. So instead of investing into a business, investing into this, making something better, I gotta fix my diet, man. I gotta get rid of these microplastics, man, because in a month, my health consequences is gonna be so downhill, man. I gotta get these out now. I don't want that build up. I need to start my body's detox. Listen, it takes one day for your body to get rid of microplastics. Do you really think what matters now is a small min-max 0.1% negligible bonus of your general health metrics? Do you think that matters more than putting your money elsewhere and actually making something from it? This video is for the very serious people who want to find ways to slightly improve, to slightly block estrogen, to really understand what's happening here, what people are selling them when they say, don't drink this, don't eat this. It's about that, and it's also about a way to implement these tactics for your own. If you have maxed everything out and you're like, okay, I have this money to burn, I might as well min-max. It's time to min-max. let's min-max in this certain area. And of course, there are many other areas to min-max in, and a lot of my videos would be that sort of content. Min-maxing enough to make a noticeable difference. That's the plan. It's like an athlete, you know, you're trying to shave that 0.1 second, but that 0.1 second is a new world record. Like it's that sort of thing. Because when you get to the very end, the difference between, you know, standard and incredible is so small. It's just a little bit more effort, a little bit more changes, and it makes a world of a difference. Anyway, so we've kind of touched about produce, microplastics, and milk. Milk, you know, we've covered those estrogens. The next thing is another thing I've seen recently, and that's talking about drinking water. So drinking water is one of those things where you're most likely getting it from the tap, or if you're lucky, you're going through the next step, the kind of the leveled up of that tap water. You're doing one of either two things. One, you're filtering it, or two, you're getting bottled water. I know you're like, why are you putting them on the same level? Yeah, the reason I'm putting this at the same level is depending on the way you're filtering this water. Well, I guess I shouldn't really say that because they're all fairly similar. Depending on the bottled water you're getting, you could potentially be doing better than this standard filter method. You see, a lot of filtration methods, there's only so much they can get rid of. They're really just removing sediment, they're removing bacteria, which is why no matter what, please get a filter, because there is a lot of sediment which you just don't want to be in your water. If you've seen an image of pipes, they literally coated in this, it just looks like, it looks like stagmate or whatever. It looks like the weird dripping things from Minecraft. I haven't been on that while, but like the Cliffs and Caves update, that's what I assume the game looks like. And then you know, like when you go into an actual cave, you're like, you know, on those boats which goes through the cave, and you see like all the dripping and like the weird stone when it's kind of got that slimy texture to it. It you can like almost see your reflection in it. It's just off-putting. It looks kind of like Clayface from, I don't know, Batman or something. Like it's just a bit off. That's what's in your pipes. There is a level of sediment and, you know, natural minerals which you get from the mountains, and it's perfect. But then there's other things which are not so perfect, and they build up in your your pipes. Unless you're lucky, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be the ratios of minerals we want. So please, for the love of, you know, just no matter what, have some sort of basic water jug filter. Like they're so cheap, you can get them for like anything, and it's going to make a difference, especially for cleaning that bacteria. Like, you know, where's this water coming from? And please do not use the hot tab. The hot tab comes from a different piping, which is so much worse, especially as you're heating that stuff up, which is going to get more sediment, more minerals into the water, which you don't want to be having. So cold water necessary, filter jug necessary. But this is for the serious people. This is to explain a topic I've done a lot of research into and discovered a lot about. So that's what we're going to be speaking about, obviously. So why can bottled water be above? And why is it normally at the same level? Well, the thing with bottled water is most of the time it's potable water, which is pretty much the exact same thing you're getting in your pipes. When it's not potable water, and if you're in an island country, you benefit from this a lot because most of the water you drink will be actually like, you know, from an actual spring. The thing that matters most isn't actually how good of a spring it is, because, you know, there's levels of cleanness that are going to be met. And same with minerals, you know, it's all fairly natural. We don't have to worry about that too much. The thing that matters most when you're getting bottled water is literally the thing that comes in, the plastic, because different bottles have different levels of seepage, that, you know, they're composed of different plastics. And based on that, there was a study, I think Nestle or someone did it, and it was basically just recording the amount of microplastic in each of the bottles, and they came to the conclusion that Evian water was the best you can buy. You know, it has such a negligible amount of microplastic where it's comparable to basically nothing. Like it's comparable to have like purely distilled water, although, you know, a little bit worse. But that's the sort of thing that you would get, and that would be better than that filter jug. And, you know, it's like, you know, what's the issue with a filter jug? What does it miss? See, there's a few things it misses. One is, of course, there'll be a tiny bit of microplastic that seeps through. That will actually be more than the bottled water, but that's not what we're focusing on. The thing we're focusing on most regarding the potable water, you know, the whole system there, is a compound called estradiol, and this is something I'm sure you've probably seen it if you're watching this video, because of, a lot of people come from me from a certain creator who's actually, talked about this certain topic. But estradiol is basically birth control. It's estrogen. It's definitely gonna it's definitely gonna affect your body if you're getting it. And although you're not getting a huge amount, you are getting it in a way that could make a difference. May make a difference. Who knows? But eliminating it is better than keeping it in when you get to these later stages of let's optimize like everything. And so it basically gets there by someone who's on birth control. They pee, goes into the water supply. The water supply says, look, we could get rid of this, but we don't care. Guidelines say we don't need to get rid of it. It's not as big of a deal as, who cares, right? And it's going to cost 5 billion to fix it, so we'll leave it in. Like, who cares, man? Who cares? No one cares. Like, unless everyone starts growing boobs, like, it's fine. But of course, this could make a difference, and that's why potable water, until it implements a way to filter this out, which it's not going to do because it costs you like 5 billion or something, until that happens, water fresh from the spring is like what we're aiming for. Which is why in this study that they conducted, there are a few things above Evian water actually which have a lower microplastic count. The reason I didn't include these specific things is purely because I decided that potable water, they're not going to clean out this estradiol, and the microplastic is like a fairly similar count to Evian anyway. We're gonna go with Evian. Now, here is like the Giga Chad, like the ultimate, I'm a D1 athlete at like the best university in the entire nation. I don't really know much about D1, I'm not American, but I do know some of the terminology. How are we gonna handle this? Like, what's our method? I'm a natural athlete. I'm not gonna hop on steroids. I'm not gonna have some sort of aromatase inhibitor. I'm not going to have some intervention to lower my estrogen levels. I am trying to be the perfect natural. I'm trying to reduce something which may be affecting my performance. And, what am I going to do? So there is something you can buy called a water distiller. And this is something where it heats the water up to a very, very high temperature, probably 100 degrees, 100 degrees Celsius, and it evaporates it. And then on top it has a fan system which condenses it, and it drips out as water. And different machines, different times, but you're roughly looking at like 4 liters, which is a day's worth of drinking, in about 3 hours. And so then you can drink it. It's perfectly clean. There's no bacteria in it. Not only will the bacteria probably not come up into the air and into the steam, but the bacteria is being killed by that very high temperature. And if your water, which is from the tap, because, why would you waste bottled water on it? It's going to be like the same thing anyway. If your water somehow has bacteria in that cannot be killed at a temperature of 100 degrees Celsius, where water is literally turning to steam, do you really think you should be drinking that water? Do you really think a standard filter would actually make a difference? Although there are further filters we'll talk about, because most of these have an additional filter. Now, what you're getting from this is you're removing all the sediment, all the natural minerals in this water. You're removing any sort of compounds like estradiol, anything else that may be there. You're killing the bacteria. You're basically getting pure water. The purity is so pure. You could probably throw this on your computer and nothing would happen. Apart from like the remnants of dust that's in your computer actually affecting things. Like, that's probably... I don't know enough about computers to say if that's accurate or not, but I think it's accurate. I don't know. It's whatever. Who cares? Don't try it. But take my word for it, assuming that's what short circuits the minerals. If it's not, then your computer's gone. So please don't try it. But that's pretty much like how you purify that water. And after it comes through and it condenses with a fan, which is super cooling it to make it drip out, it actually usually goes through a second filter, a carbon filter, something to again just kill off any remaining bacteria, any remaining compounds to catch it all, and then you would every now and then you would swap that out. And this is something where if you're in winter, you're pretty in luck, because it also serves as a makeshift heater, which is pretty cool. Now, the thing with this whole stuff is you'd probably pick this if you're so serious about this, where bottled water isn't really as necessary for you, because as great as bottled water is, it's going to be expensive to buy it every single day. And the long-term investment of this specific device, it will pay back, and then you'll have like infinite drinking water, because buying 4 Evian bottles a day to drink, especially if you're an athlete and you have higher needs, I like to tie your calorie needs to your like hydration needs, and then obviously you plug and play based on how hot of a day it is. But typically 1 calorie 1 milliliter, and then your creatine you just throw in like half a liter extra. So it's based on your maintenance, your TDE, really. So that kind of explains like how much you'd probably need to be drinking, and yeah, that could get pretty pricey. But alongside this, you encounter a new issue, because I'm sure, as you heard earlier, we're stripping the water of all the minerals, and yet we're supposed to be having minerals in our water. I don't know if you've seen, but some people who don't know too much about this sort of stuff, they'll like sprinkle salt into their water, or they'll like squeeze a lemon. They'll be like, oh yeah, this is healthier because I'm getting like a bit of potassium from the lemon and stuff. That's not really, the water has a balance, and normal waters have an okay amount. But if you drink too much of it, you're probably going to encounter an issue, which is dehydration, but other people call it hyperhydration as well, where it's just you have too much water and not enough of the electrolyte, and your body has the same effect of being dehydrated, basically, because you're not able to transport the electrolytes around your bloodstream, around your body as efficiently, because you're essentially like drowning them. Like imagine an entire lake, and then you have like 1 drop of electrolytes compared to like a pond with a drop of electrolytes. Like one is going to be much more diluted, and your body has a certain balance of things to run. So there's a thing I do to counteract this, and it's a product I have a few products. Nothing's really officially out yet, but it's basically I make my own electrolyte powder. So and this is something you should do. I took this recipe from a guy on YouTube. I can't remember his name. I'll have to find it, but it was under the name of snake juice, and the original use of this was actually for people on keto diets, or people who are fasting long term, to make sure that they keep getting their salts and they don't just die of dehydration whilst, because they're drinking so much but they're not actually getting any electrolytes in. So that's basically what the original purpose was for. I repurposed it because I knew how potentially bad diluted water could be 24/7. And what I typically like to do is, if I feel I need it, I will put a small amount in my water, and then the time I will always use it is for my training sessions. I will always put an entire scoop of this. It's in one of my supplement jars. It's kind of like the label's wrong, but it's just an electrolyte powder. Perfect balance of, of magnesium, of salt, and of potassium. I don't really care about calcium. I could probably, add that in, and that would also add to the benefit. But that's something to consider later on. I don't really care. I found that this salt balance, this electrolyte balance, works perfectly for me. Other people could have different responses to it, but I'll just throw a spoon in before training, have that liter, and I also, like I said before, maybe if I feel like I need some more, half a scoop now and then. A good way to kind of work out if you need this is it sounds a bit strange, but when you need this will taste like the most heavenly thing ever. When you've been sweating, imagine you're doing cardio and you've been sweating and sweating and sweating, and you have that water and it tastes amazing because you just need something back in. This tastes better. If you are fully hydrated 100% and you have a sip, you're like, this is kind of salty, this is kind of gross. But when you're done that intense cardio, or like you've had a really hard set, you've been sweating a lot, when you drink this, it is like nectar of the gods. Honestly, this is I love it. I love it so much, and I've had people try it before and they're like, that is disgusting. It's not. When you need it, you want it. And it's just so good. That's kind of a way you tackle this sort of thing. And it's a lot better than just adding salt to your water, because people who just add salt to their water, they're messing with that electrolyte balance still. They're not having enough magnesium or potassium to kind of counteract the effects of high sodium. And high sodium can have some pretty like dastardly pretty like effects we don't really want, because when it comes to like our blood, not our blood, when it comes to our heart rate, it can really start chucking it up there. Of course, you could say having higher sodium, retains more water in your body. Realistically, I have to say, yeah, like I have noticed that I retain a little bit more water, but it's the sort of thing where you can just reduce the amount of times you're using this, the amount you're using, and because of the ratio and the balance, you start to lose a bit more water. But what I would personally do is I would remove salt from your meals because unless you really like it's yummy and you're adding it for flavor, just don't go excessive on the salt. Kind of remove it from your diet as much as you can do without like ruining your flavor. And from that, you should be able to be fine with the amount of sodium you're getting from this. I mean, even then, it's not a considerable amount. But I will say this: the second you start using this, and this is something which you could probably do yourself anyway with your training sessions, it would make them better. Even if you're not using diluted water, it would make them better just because you're getting like pure electrolyte sports water when you're working out, especially with cardio. But the pump you get, man, the pump you get with this stuff, like people are like, oh, let's take a scoop before you lift, and the pump's gonna be incredible. The pump you get when you have a proper electrolyte formula and you're having it in like a liter of water which you're consistently drinking is absolutely insane. It's something where every time I experience it, I'm like, how is this happening? It literally, I think it's the cure to body dysmorphia. I think this electrolyte water could potentially be the cure because every time I use it, I'm just amazed. I look at myself and I'm like, is this me? Is this actually me? How is this? And you can say, oh, the pump doesn't matter, but there are some extra benefits to this. When it comes to your recovery, yes, it will enhance it. Those electrolytes. When it comes to pretty much everything, even having a better pump can also help with that like mind muscle connection. But it's a benefit. I mean, I don't want to go off on too long of a tangent about how to fix the diluted water problem, but we kind of don't have much else to talk about. So I will try and bring it to a natural kind of close off here. And I mean, yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, we've covered estrogenics, we've covered what to avoid, what to implement, and it's one of those things where the only thing that's gonna like drastically hurt you is probably nothing. Just doing nothing. So long as you're working towards being better, you're always going to be improving. It's about that 1% every single day, 365% a year, which is definitely not true because 1% a day compounds. So anyone who says, oh, 1% a day and you improve 365%, like, shut up. That's not how it works. This sort of stuff, this sort of hydration is important. And like I said, my original dream, I always find ways to tie in my product. It doesn't even exist. I got told I should start some sort of Kickstarter, some crowdfunding. If I did that, maybe in the description below. I'm considering it. I really want this supplement brand to exist because I think I have a lot of things that I have to give. Like, this research here has presented in such a way where I have these new concepts and these new understandings of ways we can improve our training sessions in a way which isn't overpriced packets and sachets of electrolytes. I've never seen anyone actually offer electrolytes as a supplement in a tub where you can scoop it into your stuff instead of having like an overpriced sachet or a Gatorade or something which it is pretty good for your electrolytes, but at the same time it's very pricey. Like this thing here, I think when I calculated the price, it was like 11p a day, and that was before I realized I didn't need to have an entire scoop in every single of my 4 liters. So it's literally like 4p a serving or something. Like, it's absolutely crazy. I could sell that for like such a cheap price and it would be incredible, and the markup would probably still be like substantially good. It's one of those things. I keep learning and I keep learning, and there are things where there are products I see that don't exist, and I know that I could throw something out and I could help people and I could bring the information to people through my videos. And even if I can just say, just one scoop, you throw it with your pre-workout and the pump is incredible, people will be like, okay, I want that. But when I explain a bit more about the processes behind and how it can help you as an individual long term, if you're using diluted water or you just want to be able to push harder or recover from a hard cardio session or difficult sets in the gym, you don't want to cramp up. Like, if you're cramping up, you should definitely be using electrolytes. I have a friend who cramps up like all the time. he fixed it by taking magnesium, and that sort of thing is literally what, you know, electrolyte water is based on. But it's not one tablet, it's not one scoop of one thing, it's a combination of things in a balance and a perfect mineral, minus the calcium, which I need to do a bit more research on to see what I can do in that area. And yeah, alongside that, you know, the pre-workout, something which doesn't exist properly in this country. I have these two products now, these really two strong products, and I don't even think I'm going down this supplement route anymore. Like, I don't see pre-workout as a supplement. I see it as an enhancer of workouts. I don't see electrolyte water as a supplement. I see it as a way to maintain good electrolyte balance within the body. Am I ever gonna throw out a testosterone pill, a fat loss pill? Probably not. I'm gonna be honest, probably not. In my own research I've done with those sort of vitamins, there is like small changes. Is it something where I give enough value to it to sell it to someone? No. I mean, I'm not even selling anything right now. Well, I do sell to some friends, but I don't think that's going to be something, unless it's like so incredible where I have to do it. Like, I want to do things which people aren't doing, or they're doing poorly. Selling a supplement that already exists out there, or people can, you know, put together themselves for pretty decent prices, it's not going to be good. Like, that's not going to help me. That's not how I'm going to that's not how I'm going to get distinctiveness within this industry, within this market. I am someone who has a lot of plans and who wants to grow. Not only am I constantly learning, but I'm constantly planning. I'm constantly looking into the future and looking ahead and seeing what I can give, what value I have. But that's not something that others are doing. They just think, what information can I tell? What do I know? Do I want to continue learning? Not really. But what can I spam out a bunch of videos on? And, you know, that might cause my growth to be slow. That might interrupt the potential I have. But the end goal is something that's pure, and I hope those who come along on the journey will, you know, be by my side for it, and we can get somewhere. So yeah, thanks for like kind of listening around, sticking around for that rant at the end, or whatever it was. Thank you. Continue just doing what you're doing, man. And I hope you enjoyed this breakdown of a few things. If it was useful to you, then I've served my part. So subscribe. If you made it to this end, this is a long video. If you made it to this end, you should subscribe. Like, there's no way you can sit through this amount of time with someone and then think, nah, I don't want to sub to this guy. Like, you know, I probably won't watch the more videos. Wasn't very interesting. Couldn't engage my attention. Because look, the audience retention to get to this place, jeez, man, something's up. And I think you know that there's more information to come. There's more I can teach, more I can show. So, you know, leave a comment. Do you have any questions? Do you want a thumbs up? Do you want to leave a like? Do you want to send this to a friend? Is there anyone you want to share this information to? Do you want to add me on Twitter? Do you want to spark a conversation there? I don't care, man, but I would definitely appreciate it. So see ya.